Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lola. I hope you're doing all kinds of well. I am here today in this video to talk about two books that I recently read. Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt, and then Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Before I get into these books though, I'm going to read a short myth out of my Encyclopedia of Spirits. Alright, let's pick a random page. Okay. We've got Bona Dea. Origin, Rome. Bona Dea literally means the good goddess and refers to female spirits exclusively venerated by women. Because these were mystery traditions from which men were excluded, little documented information about the Bona Dea survives. Several different goddesses were classified among the Bona Dea. References to the Bona Dea are generally believed to refer to fauna. Cool. All right, so let's start off by talking about Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt. This is a horror book, as you can see, the library stuck that on there. It is a horror book. It is set in like upstate New York in a town called Black Spring. In this town, there is a witch that has been there for like 300 years, I guess. They say like she's a 300-year-old witch. I'm pretty sure she's like a little bit older than 300 years. Anyways, she's been hanging around because a long time ago, she was forced to kill her son, I think. Something happened. Her son died, and then people saw her like burying her son, and then a couple days later, they saw her son walking around again, and they're like, witch, burn her, something like that. And yeah, it didn't work out so great. So the town is now haunted by her, and there's a curse on the town in which if you ever leave the town for like extended periods of time, you develop this strong urge to kill yourself. That's basically like the setup for the story. So you're in this town, and Hex is actually the name of like the security system that the town has. They have like cameras all over the town. They make sure that the witch is always like somewhere they know where she is. She has a pattern that she follows. Her eyes are sewn shut. Her mouth is sewn shut. She just looks dead, and like they describe her as like having almost like a broken spine type of posture. So creepy, right? But after about 30 pages, I was like, okay, what's the story? And there really wasn't much of a plot for a good 200 pages. Basically, more than half of the book was setting up the setting, the history of the town, the consequences, also kind of the twisted mentality of the people living in that town. We're also meeting a family, Steve and Jocelyn, husband and wife, and his two kids, Tyler and shit, I forgot the name of the other one. Whatever, he doesn't matter that much. Fuck, I really should remember his name though. Tyler and what? Austin, I think was his name. I believe it was Austin. Then you get to the last 100 pages, and that is literally just a giant shit show of, oh my god, the witch broke out of her pattern, and all hell is breaking loose in this town, and like, it's really pushing the brutality of people and what they will do in situations where they're like, oh, my life is in danger, right? So, you know, people are violent. We all know that, right? It's all about nature, not nurture. Also, the last 100 pages where everything goes to shit, it's also very like abstract, like the type of like psychological horror you would read, but there's also graphic scenes, like gore and stuff, but I knew what was happening, but I couldn't quite keep track of the details of what exactly was happening. And I think that was the point. It was to disorientate the reader and make them just kind of lose their mind along with the rest of the town. Which, again, I think that this book was overall good, but 200 pages of nothing happening, other than like small bits, was frustrating. And that was one of my big qualms with the book, is the fact that so many details were like mentioned and they seemed like they would be really important and then just poof, disappeared. One of which is, this is not a spoiler, like it happens right at the beginning of the book, is there are new neighbors moving in, and the town, Hex, is trying to convince these people to not move in, right? They're like, no, you can't live here, go away. And they don't tell them why, obviously, because they don't want to tell them like, oh yeah, well, we're haunted by a witch, so you don't want that. You don't want to be cursed. They just try to like pay them like $5,000 to not move in. The people end up moving in anyways. They're like, fuck you can't bribe me. So they move in, and then they end up learning the truth because the witch pops up in your house. But then like it's never mentioned again. Like they disappear until like the last part of the book where their name is mentioned again. That part, I just like, for me, at the beginning of the book, it seemed like that was a setup for the plot. Oh, new neighbors move in. They're going to be the cause of all this trouble. But they just kind of vanished. And then like there's little things that pop up here and there that I'm just like, I don't see why the story didn't veer more towards this or whatever. Then there was also female characters. There were only 4 in total in this book, and they were just terribly written. The 4 female characters had no personality, of which one of the female characters is the witch, and she doesn't fucking talk, so it's like, yeah, can't really do much with that. She's more of an item, an object in the story than she's a person. So yeah, that bothered me. Yeah, I just felt a little disappointed by this book. I do want to get into some spoilers, so if you don't want to listen to this, just skip ahead to the next book. These are going to be like random spoilers, by the way, like just spitballing them here and there. One of them is Jocelyn's weird suicide dream. So around the end of the book, when Jocelyn, Steve's wife, she's like in the city, far from the town. Like, so you can leave the town for extended periods of time, but eventually, like, the feeling of wanting to kill yourself will rise. But you know, the whole thing happens with the witch gone fucking crazy, her eyes being finally released from their spell, and she is like overcome by this need to kill herself, and she has her suicide dream. I fucking hated that suicide dream. What the fuck? She's running in the woods, she hears her child screaming for her or something like that, and then there's just a wild boar and it fucks her? What? Like, excuse me? And here's the part that I really got mad about, is that I'm like, you know, that's weird as shit. I get it. It's supposed to be disturbing. I think it's completely uncalled for. But no one else has not a sex dream, a suicide dream. No one else has a suicide dream. She's the only one. And it's just about her being essentially molested by a wild boar. Why? Why? And why did she have that like 8 years ago? Back when they were in Thailand. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. That really pissed me off. That's where I was like, Jocelyn's literally only here to get fucked, basically. I'm not even sure if I really fully understood that whole suicide dream because I got so mad. I was just like, I'm fucking done with this. Another thing that I personally was confused by, or like I don't know, I was like, why did this happen, is Austin, their youngest son, their like 13-year-old kid. Why did he have glue in his eyes? Or caulk, or whatever it was. Why did he have that in his eyes? Because so Tyler hung himself, and like we understood that, like he heard the recording of the witch over and over and over and over again, so he killed himself, right? He was just driven by that. But Austin, what did fuckface Justin, whatever his name was, I'm just spewing out boy names now, whatever his name was, did he put the caulk in the glue? I'm not gonna say caulk, C-A-U-L-K, by the way, dirty people. I'm not gonna say it anymore though. Did he put the glue in Austin's eyes, or did, like, I just feel like, why, if the witch wasn't the one who actually spoke to Tyler and made him kill himself and it was just a recording, right? Then why the fuck would Austin have put glue in his eyes, like, and done that to himself? Did Justin, whatever his name is, boy who got whipped, did he do that to Austin? Why even would he? I don't know. That part, I was like, what the fuck? Like, that was a detail. I was like, I would have liked to understand why that happened. But, you know, all shit was breaking loose, so we got no explanation. Or maybe there was an explanation and all that abstract shit that happened afterwards with the whole town going up in flames, or rather weird cocoon body bloody baby children stuff. I don't listen, this book was weird, it was creepy. And I think it did a good job with that, with like being a horror book. I think it did a good job with that. Small town, creepy, horror, witch haunting, strange shit happening, and human brutality and just despicableness. That was good. But as a structured story that I could follow along and with characters that I enjoyed, meh. Like that part really brought it down for me. So yeah, this book was, I think, good, but I had too many qualms with it. All right, second book is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. I love this book. So Razorblade Tears is about, there's a short synopsis for it, and it's a good synopsis for it. It's about two dads who had gay sons who got married. Those gay sons were murdered, and now those two dads are trying to find out who killed them. The two fathers in question, Ike is a black man and Buddy Lee is a white redneck man. And all this is set in Virginia. So you can imagine that having gay sons, first of all, the sons themselves went through a really hard time with their dads. Their dads were not the nicest fathers. The type of thing that you often hear about with people who are gay and who suppressed it their whole life, and their parents just kind of knew and they hated it and didn't understand it and whatever. It, like, that part for me was really harsh. I personally, like, I never had to worry about any kind of coming out thing. I'm not gay, no matter how much my parents thought I was. They would have totally accepted it. But the amount of friends that I have who still to this day, and they're in their 30s, still to this day, fear telling their parents, even though they think their parents already know, and their parents probably do, but at the end of the day, saying words and actually like presenting it is so much harder. And having the story from the dad's perspective, I think was amazing, because they, like, the dads knew and they just didn't want their sons to say it. And that was just powerful to me. I was like, holy fuck. So yes, a lot of tears were shed on that part. So very emotional book, very powerful, with a not subtle message at all. The message is just fucking accept people. And it's not even, the story wasn't even just centered around homosexuality or, just your own sexual orientation. There were also topics of race in here, because one man's black, one man's white. They're working together to try and track down who killed their sons. And Buddy Lee is, I fucking love Buddy Lee. He's a very, like, spews shit out of his mouth kind of guy. And Ike had to threaten him a couple times and be like, don't you fucking dare call me that. And Buddy Lee's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And there were so many good quotes in this book. And I thought it was really good when it came to talking about differences, whether that was sexual orientation or race or gender identity, all that stuff. It's definitely more focused on the characters, but it has such a wonderful plot and storyline. Our characters grew as they were struggling to find out who killed their sons. And the way it all went was, it was amazing. I don't think I've quite read a book that hit my heartstrings so much. And it's funny because, again, like, I'm not gay. I'm not black. Like, I don't experience any of this shit. I did not have a sex change. Like, I don't have trouble with my gender identity or with my sexual orientation or with the color of my skin. But hot damn, this book was just so good. This is the kind of book that I'm like, you need to read this. To me, it wasn't about, like, pushing a message so much as it was just such a good story about just love people, because you don't know when you'll lose them. And that's the other thing. This book is a lot about grief. Now, if you've seen some of my previous videos, I talk oftentimes about how it pisses me off when a book is like so just depressing all the time, or the characters are just, oh my god, they whine all the time, they're complaining all the time, they're so sad all the time. It's because in those books, it's not well done. It's written where I'm just like, god damn, like shut up, I get it, you're sad, right? In this book, these dads are sad, but it's well written where I am with them in their grief, in their hardship, and just powerful shit. This book was also very fast paced. I will say that, is that shit just happening all the time. There were high stakes. I was not expecting that either. I had moments where I felt my heart drop into my stomach because I was like, wait, what? Why did that happen? Very high stakes, very fast paced, very emotional. I highly recommend it. It was so good. I don't really have any spoilers I want to talk about necessarily, but I mean, I'll put a little spoiler thing here because there are just a couple things I want to mention, like favorite moments that I had. First off, when Buddy Lee is, I don't remember exactly, I think he was fighting. I know that, or like he was yelling at someone. Yeah, he was yelling at the judge, and he screamed like, I'm an ally, bitch, like something like that. I was like, I love you, Buddy Lee. I love you so much. And it's interesting because, like, in a way, him saying that was almost not necessarily character development, because he's the kind of person who makes you think that he doesn't care about, like, oh, you can be gay or you can be black. But then again, he's the kind of person who's like, you can be gay as long as you're not my son, right? Which, him saying, like, I'm an ally, I was like, yes, buddy. You fucking own that shit. Yes, you are. So that brought me to tears. That was beautiful. And another thing that Buddy Lee did, when they were finally finding out who the boyfriend was of Tangerine, they just knew W. But then, like, the moment I learned that, like, she had a boyfriend and they couldn't talk about each other, and we just knew the name was W, I was like, it's gotta be the judge. It's gotta be the judge. And I only really, like, guessed that, like, a chapter or two before Buddy Lee connected with W. And I don't know why, I like that a lot, where, like, I couldn't guess exactly who done it. So I like that I was able to, like, unravel the mystery around the same time Buddy Lee did, where I felt like, not like, oh, I predicted this so much earlier than everyone else, but more of, fuck yeah, I guessed it, and bam, he guessed it too. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, I don't know, I felt like I was part of their team, of their little duo. That was my rant for 2 books. You can clearly tell that I had a favorite. So if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment if you like these books, if you know any other books by the authors that you think are just as good or better. And yeah, you can subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.